Okay guys, welcome to part 3 of this 3D modeling series. Last time we created the low poly version and we unwrapped the model. So we now have a nice flat rock that we can put inside Unreal Engine. But we want to get a normal map and we want to get a texture onto it. So in this video we're going to take a look at how we can get the normals out. I'm going to show two methods, and the first one is inside 3D Studio Max, and actually I just realized I did something stupid. Okay, anyway, it's not a big deal, because I actually need a copy of my high poly version. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select my move tool and I'm going to hold shift and move this to the side and make a copy and call this high poly. Okay, so it's going to take a while, and that's why I think this was a little bit of a mistake, because now it's going to make a copy with the Pro Optimizer and the unwrap and all that stuff. And that's taking a little bit more time than just making a duplicate of it to begin with, which is going to be instantaneously. So yeah, next time I'm going to do this, or if you do this, make sure to make a duplicate of it, of the high poly to begin with, so you don't have to wait while it's doing its thing. But it's not a big deal. But anyway, you want to save time wherever you can. All right, it's done. So let's take the rock 3 and rename that to low poly, so we know which one is which. So actually we need, for the high poly, we need to delete this one, the unwrap and the Pro Optimizer. So we are left with the high poly version. And the low poly version, we can actually just go ahead and collapse to. So we get rid of all the stuff in the stack here. So since we now move this to the side, we need to make sure that they are on top of each other again. So I'm going to select the low poly version and just copy the position from down here. Select the high poly version and replace that. There you go. So now they are on top of each other again. So in order to make the normal map inside 3D Studio Max, we will use what is called a projection modifier. And what that does, I've selected the low poly version. I press the projection. If you don't have this one, you can find it in the list of modifiers. Just select projection. There you go. And that's gonna create a cage, the blue lines here, which we will it allows to project something onto, and that something is going to be the high poly. So you need to pick the high poly like this, then that makes it show up in the list up here. And if you can't select it, you can always click pick and click out here. That's the same. And then we need to make sure that the cage is big enough to hold, encompass all the high poly. So you do that by pushing out on the cage settings here. You push out the cage until it's big enough to hold the entire high poly version. And if it doesn't, it's going to show up with some errors in the next step. So anyway, you just clicked it a few times, and now the cage is a little bit bigger. So next we go to render, and select render to texture or press 0. And let's see, we need to enable, there's quite a few things we need to do in here to get this to work. You need to enable prediction mapping, and once that is done, you want to select options and go into this area here was this global supersample. And right now it says Hammersley. For me it says Hammersley because I did it once before, but for you it will probably say none. So click on the setup here and scroll down where it says enable global supersampler under this section here. You want to make sure you're on render tab, but it will be to begin with, and just enable this one. And then from this drop down you want to select Hammersley, and for the filter you want to select Catmull ROM, and also want to select set the quality to 1. By default this will be 0.5, I think. And once you have done that, you just close this one up. You can also just close this one up. And then you need to select where you want to put your normal map, and you do that by scrolling down a little bit. You have the output section and click add and say I want a normal map, and let's set the size to 1024 by 1024, and then we need to decide where to put it and what type it should save it as. Gonna save it here and call it rock 3 normal, and click save and go with RGB 24-bit and no alpha. Okay, and what else do we need? You want to make sure to render to file only, and then just click render. That should be it. And you can see there's a copy of it already here because I probably did it off video one time already. And it's just going to take its time to render. And remember, if we see any red areas here, the way to fix that is to go into the projection modifier and increase the push amount here, and then re-render it again. Okay, so we don't have any red areas, so this should be good to go. So I'm just going to close this one. And let's open up the file location where we have the files. We can see here it generated a nice normal map for us, which reflects some of all the nice detail from the high poly version we had. So we're actually getting pretty close to something we can use. So let's just close this one up. And before we continue to make a material for this, I'm going to show a different way, which I'm not really entirely sure how it works, but I know it may or may not be a better, or maybe not a better, but it's nice to have an alternative to work with. So anyway, what I will do for this is to take my low poly and export that, and I'm gonna export that as an OBJ. Call that 3 low poly, and just export. Oh, that was everything, I think. Low poly. Oh, it's because I have everything here. I want to collapse this one. Oops. Collapse to, and I want to export. Select the low poly and export. Fuck, it's because I select export. Select export. Select it. That's what I want. And I want to select OBJ and work 3 low poly. There we go, done. And do the same for the high poly. Export, selected. Export. And this one is going to take significantly longer time to export. So while it's exporting, let's take a look at how we can generate the normal map in a different way. Okay, so in order to do that, we search for something called xnormal. There we go. xnormal.net. It's a free application to download. I just read about it somewhere, and download xnormal 3.19.2. So get that one, and if I open it up, it's loading on the other screen. There we go. Look, you will get this picture here. So what you need is to select low. You can select a high definition mesh and a low definition mesh, and then you can say what kind of map do I want to create. Let's see. We want to make a normal map, and I am not too familiar with the rest of the maps. I heard about convexity map and cavity map and ambient occlusion map. Where is it? There. But I'm not too I'm not too sure I want to do anything about that. I'm just gonna make a normal map for now, and we can set the size 1024 by 1024, and the edge padding, that's something it's gonna put around the normal map, and I guess that's something it will maybe do because it's gonna make sure that it's gonna make the seams a little bit less. I don't know. Anyway, in here we can also select where we want to render to. So in this case, I'm gonna render to PNG, and I'm gonna call my rock3 alternative. And I didn't type normal because it's gonna add that normal to the name. So now we can go ahead and select the high definition mesh. So you click on this button here and right click here and say add mesh, and select the high poly. Go to the low definition and select the low poly. And then, and by the way, the reason why I clicked it now is because it's done. That's what I could see in the background. So anyway, once we're done, we can click generate maps, and I have to look into a little bit more how this works, because I believe it might be doing it kind of opposite to how Max does it, but we'll see that in a minute once it's done generating it. It's fairly quick. Because we can see this this edge it generates, it's probably at least 16 pixels. So it's just done now. So we can close this one and also close this. So if we open it up in the browser here and compare these two maps here, can I open this with? So I just switch back and forth, but you may be able to see that it seems like this map, which is the one we generated inside 3D Studio Max, has this area, like there's a little hill here, and here it seems like that hill is pointing the opposite way, and the same here is like it's going outwards, and here it seems to go inwards. So I think maybe they are doing it the opposite way in xnormals. So that's something to just to note. Anyway, that was two methods of generating a normal map, I think. So I'm pretty sure there are lots of other ways, but as mentioned, I haven't spent too much time on this, so I can't tell which one is the best. Anyway, I will see you in the next video where we'll start to make a texture. So see you in the next. Bye bye.